The year 2010 witnessed the fall of Lalit Modi from a cricketing czar to a man wanted for several offences. The brain behind the multi-crore Indian Premier League was left with little choice but to flee to London. 5 years after he was stripped of cricketing administration titles, the permission for Lalit Modi's travel documents has set the trigger for the one-year-old Modi government's biggest scandal.
This influential Labour lawmaker asked Sushma Swaraj to intervene and expedite the visa papers for Lalit Modi, and according to the Sunday Times Exposé, also allegedly helped with Sushma Swaraj's nephew's admission process for a law degree at Sussex University, a charge that Sushma Swaraj has vehemently denied.
An exposé by a British newspaper shows that Lalit Modi's travel to Portugal last year was aided by the External Affairs Minister, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj.
We were initially tracking the case because Keith Vaz was involved.
Yes.
He's a very prominent British MP. He did say that Mrs. Swaraj had said that the Indian government had no objections to Mr. Modi being granted UK travel documents.
The revelations placing Modi's top minister in the dock, and soon enough came the calls for her ouster.
It is now established that Shrimati Sushma Swaraj ji was helping a fugitive of law of India.
After Sushma Swaraj tweeted a clarification, the government and the party came out in full support. Echoes of support were also heard from the BJP's ideological mentor, the RSS. With Lalit Modi on the run for the last 5 years, has the damning letter by the United Kingdom MP punched holes in the Modi government's claim of a transparent administration? With Kamaljeet Sandhu and Smita Sharma in Delhi, Bureau reports, India Today.
Let me raise the big questions that this story raises. Questions that will be asked not just today but in the days ahead. A. Why did Lalit Modi with the blue corner notice get a special favour from the minister? That's my first big question. Was the finance ministry and the finance minister kept in the loop since an enforcement directorate probe was on against Mr. Modi? Was there a quid pro quo and a conflict of interest as Sushma Swaraj's daughter is in Lalit Modi's legal team? Did Sushma Swaraj's husband, Swaraj Kaushal, seek a special favour from Lalit Modi in 2013 for a college admission for his nephew? Does that also put out a question over quid pro quo and conflict of interest? Why was there a veil of secrecy over granting favours till the Sunday Times report broke early this morning? Did Keith Vaz push for Lalit Modi's application, or did Sushma Swaraj nudge the British Foreign Office to grant him temporary travel documents? Is it true that Sushma Swaraj, as leader of the opposition, was hosted by Lalit Modi in London, as some sources are claiming? Was Swaraj's actions being tracked by someone within the NDA government? Did the Indian High Commission in Britain back Sushma Swaraj's views on Lalit Modi being granted this temporary travel document? Did Lalit Modi travel to Portugal only for his wife's treatment, or was he there also to go on holiday? Was the husband's consent really necessary for the treatment that necessitated Lalit Modi to travel to Portugal? And does this all qualify as a humanitarian ground, as Sushma Swaraj claims? Several questions that will be asked in the next hour. Joining me now, Sanjay Hegde, senior Supreme Court lawyer, to give us a legal perspective in this matter. KC Singh, former diplomat, ambassador, and someone who served, as he now reminds me, as the head of the passport office. So he will tell us exactly what the passport rules here are. Sanjay Kaul, member of the Bharatiya Janata Party, is joining me, and C.R. Keswan, spokesperson of the Congress, and with me, our National Affairs editor, Javed Ansari, with me here in the studio. So we've got all our bases covered, and I'm going to raise all those questions. I'm also going to put Sushma's defense one by one, because she has tweeted her defenses. But KC Singh, let me come to you first, because you are the person who at the end of the day knows what it takes to grant a passport in most circumstances. Now this is to Lalit Modi, who's a fugitive. Blue corner notice against him, is granted a temporary passport on the intervention of Sushma Swaraj. It is clear from the documents that I have that Keith Vaz says the foreign minister he says on the 31st of July 2014 The Foreign Minister of India has spoken to me, making it very clear that the Indian government had no objections to the travel document being granted. Mrs. Swaraj has also spoken to Sir James Bevan, who, even though he was on leave, that's the High Commissioner here, said he would speak to the relevant person in the Home Office. This is what Mr. Keith Vaz writes to the British Home Affairs Department. The next day, Lalit Modi gets his temporary travel document. Did Sushma Swaraj exceed her brief? Is there a conflict of interest? Has she committed impropriety in your view?
You see, the External Affairs Minister has the Chief Passport Officer, JSCPV, and Chief Passport Officer, that's under the Passport Act, who sits in Patiala House, which I handled for 2 years, under her. She cannot give instructions to him because he draws authority from the Passport Act. But if an Indian passport has been revoked, then her control is really to either get that overturned and return the passport, but certainly not intervene with a foreign government to have them give a travel document. That is not the job of the Indian Foreign Minister, to get a fugitive a foreign travel document, as I understand it. I don't think she allowed him to get back the Indian passport, which
his Indian passport had been impounded.
Correct.
And there was a matter pending in the Delhi High Court.
Correct.
He actually got back his passport 4 weeks later in the same month of August.
Correct.
The question is, when you do not have the temporary travel documents, when there is a blue corner notice against you, and Sushma Swaraj seems to be tweeting, KC Singh, suggesting that the reason that the travel documents had not been given earlier. Remember, Lalit Modi was in London since 2010. The reason it was not given is because the UPA government at the time felt that it would cause friction between India and Britain.
Correct.
Can she overrule that and go ahead and give this passport?
Let me tell you, if I was advising her and she was seeking my advice as the JSCPV and the Chief Passport Officer, we would have told her that, okay, we will take it up with the Finance Ministry and ED and say that we have withheld the passport, either you move with the case or we'll be answerable in the court for denying the passport. I did it in a few cases, but we said we can't. You see, normally what happens is investigating agencies have a tendency, when they can't build a case, to use denial of passport to force a person to listen to them. Now, this is a third-degree method. Now, if you have a case against someone, move for extradition. Get him arrested and bring him back to India. Not to deny a passport interminably will draw the court into it, which is what happened. So therefore, she should have got the JSCPV to write to the Finance Ministry and tell them, please give us some time. Otherwise, we are giving him a temporary document because he has to travel. But she should not intervene with the foreign government.
And she should have consulted the Finance Ministry and the Finance Minister, because there is an enforcement directorate case pending against him. So technically, the Finance Ministry and the enforcement director have to agree with the views expressed by the Minister of External Affairs, or at least those views have to be.
Let me give you another example. You remember, nobody has raised it the whole of today. Madhav Singh Solanki.
Yes.
What was his crime? He was passing a personal letter to his Swiss counterpart to intervene on behalf of a non-resident group of Indians whose name was involved in Bofors. And he had to go over that. Now, he could have simply said, I was only communicating to her. He was told, you have no business to go outside official channels to pass messages.
Interestingly, I raised the Madhav Singh Solanki issue just before the program started off air. Precisely raising the same questions of impropriety. Quickly, before I come to the politician Sanjay Hegde, let me get it clear from you. Is that when in cases like this, where on one level you are pushing for extradition, or you are claiming that you are going to push for extradition. There was Mr. Chidambaram as finance minister was keen that Mr. Lalit Modi be extradited. That was not happening. Mr. Modi is in the UK, appeals on humanitarian grounds, claiming that his wife is there for cancer treatment. The laws of Portugal do not say that the husband's consent is required. He claimed that it was required, so he needed to go to Portugal for the same. That's what the documents clearly suggest. Now, do you believe therefore that under the law, was the government of India, did it have discretionary powers to grant in that sense Lalit Modi this temporary travel document, or should they have used this to put pressure on him to be extradited?
That's a call for the government of India to take as to how determined they were to get him back. Their powers run over their government, as the ambassador rightly pointed out. They could have very well granted him a passport or a temporary document.
Temporary, you can give one country specific.
Within the government of India, you can do what you want. You can take your judgment call. But you are essentially telling a foreign government, please give him a temporary document at your end, and we will not object.
I'm going to come to the critical question, which is conflict of interest, because there is enough evidence in the mail chain to suggest that Sushma Swaraj's husband, Swaraj Kaushal, had asked for a special favor in 2013. The email trail is very clear, where he asked Lalit Modi for a special favor for an admission for his nephew. It is also clear that Sushma Swaraj's daughter, Basuri, who is a lawyer, was part of Lalit Modi's team. In fact, on July 30th, Lalit Modi wrote to colleagues, including Basuri, saying, Keith has kindly used his good office to push as much as he can and continues to do the same. And when on the 1st of August, he actually gets this benefit, immediately Lalit Modi says thank you and also CC Swaraj Kaushal on that. I'm going to come to that in a moment, but consulting editor sports, Boria Majumdar, says he's spoken now to Lalit Modi. Can you tell us, Boria, what is Lalit Modi saying?
I've spoken to members of his family, Rajdeep, just now in London, and what they are saying is, first they want to thank Sushma Swaraj. They are blaming the UPA government for being vindictive. They use the word vindictive several times. Lalit has been asked not to speak to the media by his lawyers in the UK because apparently he has a gag order from his lawyers, because within a few days he will speak out. That's what the message that I've been given just now. They are saying that for 3.5 years, they were constantly requesting the UPA government for this travel document when his wife was getting sicker. They say that she had liver cancer. For the first time, they're saying that publicly, that she had liver cancer, was about to lose her kidneys and could even die. So Lalit had to go to Portugal, not only because of consent, but there was a chance that she could even expire. So the situation was as dire as that. They are saying finally Sushma Swaraj, acting on her conscience, managed to get him that travel document using her offices. So they are grateful. They are saying repeatedly he has filed.
Hold on, Boria, while Lalit Modi can say that, the fact is that on August 1st, he goes to Portugal. However, on August 4th, there are photographs to show he's holidaying in Ibiza. So clearly this was not just a cancer treatment. It was much more than that. Yes, as it is possible that his wife was suffering from cancer. He has spoken about it in the past. But was it only cancer treatment and humanitarian grounds is a question, because on the 4th of August, he was spotted holidaying in Ibiza. So Mr. Modi will also have to answer that.
Two other points, Rajdeep. I'm just telling you what his family just now spoke to me, and they are in Venice for another wedding. They are saying that for 3.5 years, the UPA government repeatedly lost cases against him, and they are saying they lost cases against him in UK courts. And every time they lost a case, they tried to appeal the verdict, trying to prolong the fact that he does not get this travel document. He blamed it squarely on Mr. Chidambaram. Right. They blamed it squarely on Mr. Chidambaram, said they are being vindictive, and finally it was Sushma Swaraj's intervention which saved the life. And they also said that within a week, Lalit Modi will speak to the media, but they're extremely grateful to the Indian government, i.e. Sushma Swaraj in particular, for having saved them at this point in time.
Okay. Boria Majumdar Jay joining, he's spoken to Lalit Modi's family, but I want to come to the politicians in a moment and the issue of conflict of interest. Take that to me, explain this to me, Sanjay Kaul, because the chain mails that I have clearly show that there was a proximate relationship between Swaraj Kaushal and Lalit Modi, to the point where he asked Mr. Modi for a special favor in 2013 through an email, seeking admission for his nephew, which in turn Lalit Modi directs to Keith Vaz, the senior British lawmaker. Also, the daughter of Sushma Swaraj was appearing as part of the defense team of Lalit Modi. Do you concede, therefore, prima facie, that this is a case of conflict of interest? I'm not going into illegality at the moment. A case of conflict of interest.
No, not at all. I comprehensively deny that. I think in the first instance, Ms. Swaraj has already clarified that the admission was sought and gained in 2013 on the basis and merit of the student. Having said that, I also do want to say that in case we are thrashing this issue in the hope that a motive will fall out, we are wasting our time. The limited role of the foreign minister in this case was simply this, that she suggested that there would be no damage to bilateral relations if Mr. Modi travelled out to the UK. I think that we are adding a lot of dimensions.
Mr. Kaul, you're not answering my central question, sir. With due regard, you're not answering my central question, which is conflict of interest. If your husband is seeking a specific favour from an individual who's a fugitive, if your daughter is appearing as a lawyer for that fugitive, then for you to go out of turn and speak to the British High Commissioner here and to the lawmakers there to specifically ask that Lalit Modi be granted a temporary travel document, which the previous government of the UPA was refusing to give him, instead was pushing their claim for his extradition, then there will be question marks raised. Do you concede that or not? Prima facie conflict of interest.
No, I deny that comprehensively, and I'm repeating that again. And I said the basis of that is simply this, that Ms. Swaraj has clarified that this is a matter that pertains to 2013 when she was not the minister, number one. Number two, securing a favour is a dimensional issue. What you are calling a favour may not be a favour, and what you're thinking constitutes a value judgment is not under discussion. We are simply saying that this is an issue which was consistent with Ms. Swaraj's behavior with regard to every citizen of India. On top of that, she has said that
are you saying every citizen of India would include a fugitive would get this temporary facility on humanitarian grounds? Is that what the BJP now is claiming, that any Indian citizen, including a fugitive tomorrow, who applied for a temporary passport on humanitarian grounds would be given it? The minister spoke out of turn.
I am not extending it to outside of the term of the minister. The minister has been consistent with regard to people from Yemen or Iraq or wherever else. You have seen that she has been providing assistance.
So for God's sake, let's not compare. Sir, they're not fugitives. Let's not compare Indians in Yemen and Iraq with Lalit Modi, please. Let's not. There's a huge difference. There's a world, there's a gulf of difference. So let's not go. But I just want, just a minute. I just want to understand the Congress perspective, because the Congress, Mr. Keswan, is calling for the resignation of Sushma Swaraj. The fact though is that Lalit Modi went to the UK in 2010. We're now looking at 2014, 2013, 2014 is the period. The UPA could have pushed for his extradition. The UPA instead was denying him travel documents. He and his family claimed they needed it for medical treatment. And we'll come back to that, whether it was really for medical treatment or he simply wanted to get out of the UK. But the fact is that in this case, he was openly available on television channels. He was in fact coming and even speaking to us from London. So he was not technically in that sense an Ottavio Quattrocchi-like figure, which the BJP has now used to put the Congress in a corner. How do you respond?
What has happened today has raised grave concerns with regard to an external affairs minister and with a quid pro quo with a fugitive and an absconder in the eyes of the Indian law, Rajdeep. See,
what is the quid pro quo?
2013, if you remember,
let me understand. When we use words like quid pro quo,
I'm just starting.
What does it mean?
I just started, Rajdeep. I just started. Let me complete. First thing is this. In July 2013, the then Home Minister, Mr. P. Chidambaram, has very clearly said, you know, they had contacted the British government, and also an extradition notice was sent, and they had contacted the Chancellor of the Exchequer there. So the Congress party had, the UPA government has taken its stand. More importantly, one point which was not raised here. See, his passport was impounded on March 3rd, 2010, but it was by a High Court order, it was, given back to him on August 27, 2014. Why didn't the BJP-led NDA government appeal to the Supreme Court, which is very natural when a division bench gives, a decision in a High Court against a guy, a person who has a blue corner notice by the Finance Ministry, a lookout notice by ED, and also very serious charges by the Income Tax Department of illegal betting, match fixing, money laundering and FEMA violation. So the BJP has to answer that.
What is the quid pro quo?
Let me complete.
What is the quid pro quo?
No, I'm coming there. Humanitarian. Quid pro quo is simple because you talked about, the letters which were exchanged between the husband of, the external affairs minister. In 2013, she was in touch for a college seat. She was a leader of opposition. And why is she in touch with a person who's a fugitive in 2013? Leave alone she being a external affairs minister now. And let me come back to this humanitarian crisis. Let me ask you one thing, Rajdeep. If there is a genuine problem for somebody, let's say, a person residing in England, will you contact Keith Vaz? Please note this. He is the chairman of the Home Affairs Select Committee, which controls the department and the Director General of UK Visa and Regulations. She has not only spoken to Lalit Modi, a fugitive as an External Affairs Minister, but speaks to Keith Vaz. She could have just told the MEA, or she could have just told the Indian High Commissioner in Britain to say, follow this up. Why is this personal interest? Is this humanitarian interest expressed to everybody? And let me ask you one thing. This person who has had a blue corner notice has become a blue-eyed boy. Your channel has very clearly showed he didn't go to Portugal. He went to Ibiza, he went to Venice. So this is the nationalism, which guided the, action of the External Affairs Minister as the RSS said.
Let me be fair to Lalit Modi. He's gone to Venice today. He's gone to Venice today. At that time, we are only talking about August.
A lot of
pictures are being shown of Lalit Modi on different channels.
Supermodels he was with.
I want to stick to facts, sir.
Please let us not hoodwink.
Sir, I just want to stick to facts. And the facts are that the photographs that we have acquired of Lalit Modi in Ibiza are of August. The other photographs you are seeing on channels of Lalit Modi having a good time are at different times, in the last few years. Let's stick to the facts. But KC Singh...
Rajdeep, I want to answer your question.
Just a minute. Before I take a break, I just want to get clarity on this one point. Was she right in ringing up directly, as it appears, Keith Vaz? Should she have done it through the Ministry of External Affairs officers? Should she have consulted the Finance Ministry, since this involved a blue corner notice given by a lookout notice of the Enforcement Directorate? To that extent, has Sushma Swaraj violated protocol and committed, I come back, a grave judgment error?
You see, when she's circumventing her own departments and procedures and going to a foreign government, clearly there is some uncertainty in her mind. Normally, she should have recorded a note, sent it to JSCPV, spoken to the Ministry of Finance or told them to get in touch with ED and said it is the passport department is under the Ministry of External Affairs, is under her. It is her right to, give him a temporary passport facility. She could have co-opted the Prime Minister's office and told them because of this, these emergent reasons, compassionate grounds which BJP today shares with her, I don't see why she didn't bother to check it out.
In all the years that you were handling passports or handling your various positions on similar humanitarian grounds, were exceptions made to people who had blue corner or red corner notices? Do you recall even one such instance?
I know JSCPV or Minister of External Affairs, when the Finance Ministry agencies are looking into an affair, would we extend a facility without first bringing them into the picture? Telling them,
so it would have never happened.
No. Telling them that we are sorry, this will go to a court, will be answerable to a high court. So please, either within. So first give them notice that you're about to do this. Now you've gone on the sly, allowing British to give you a travel document is not the sign that you were doing it.
And therefore you are
bringing
in the Madhav Singh Solanki analogy of 1990.
The minute you don't follow
and procedures. That was a Minister of External Affairs for possibly similar reasons as KC Singh is pointing out, of circumventing procedures, of being seen to have committed thereby an impropriety, had to resign. So should Sushma Swaraj be looking at that? Should she be asked to resign? We will look at similar cases in the past. We'll also speak to Javed, who will give us the political perspective, and to Nicole Smith of the Sunday Times, who's broken the story. Nicola Smith of the Sunday Times, the paper that has broken this story over the last 2 weeks, joins me at the moment. Nicola Smith, the big question here is that was this story originally aimed at looking at potential conflict of interest involving Keith Vaz, the senior British lawmaker, and has Sushma Swaraj become collateral damage? Or do you believe that Sushma Swaraj and Keith Vaz were operating in tandem to push for these temporary travel documents for Mr. Modi? What does your evidence show?
Well, I mean, I don't think that we have an entire overview of the situation from what we have seen so far. I mean, we don't know everything that's gone on in the background. Initially, obviously, as a British newspaper, we were interested in following the Keith Vaz angle of things, as Keith Vaz is a British politician and well known to our readers. So that's what we were looking at initially, and then through the course of the investigation, then correspondence of Mr. Vaz that we have seen mentioned Mrs. Swaraj. So then she was brought into the picture.
And are some of these documents leaked by former employees of Mr. Modi?
I have no idea where these documents have come from.
And the other last question, ma'am, to you is it true that there are some WhatsApp messages that also exist which could come out in the public domain which involve Ms. Swaraj's husband and Lalit Modi, or Ms. Swaraj herself and Mr. Modi? Are you aware of any more documents that might show a greater proximity of relationship between Lalit Modi and Sushma Swaraj?
I have not seen any WhatsApp messages personally. I've heard about it through the Indian press, but that's the extent of my knowledge on the WhatsApp messages. I'm afraid I don't have anything more on that.
Let me then ask you just one final question. There will be, is there an expectation that there will be an inquiry into Mr. Vaz's alleged conflict of interest? Is that now expected to push ahead?
Well, there have been some noises from within the Conservative Party. One particular MP has been pushing for that. That will be up to the parliamentary authorities to decide whether they go ahead with that or not. I mean, we don't know if that's going to happen or not.
Okay. Appreciate your joining us, Nicola. We'll see how far this story goes in the UK as well. The big question, of course, is whether Sushma Swaraj should do what Madhav Singh Solanki did in the early 90s, when in a very similar case, in that instance involving Bofors, the Congress leader was made to resign, or had to resign, because of what was seen as clearly impropriety. Question is, should Sushma resign? And before I come to that, just want to put up for you on the screen the Congress ministers who resigned during UPA. Just take a look, because it's interesting. This is where the story could be heading. UPA ministers who resigned. Shashi Tharoor, remember, over the IPL Kochi franchise. And that has similarities to this case again. Because many will say again that there was impropriety more than any evidence of illegality. And the leak there came from Lalit Modi, as KC Singh helpfully reminds me. Pawan Kumar Bansal accused of involvement in cash for jobs scam.
His nephew.
Now, in this case, again, the FIR did not directly name Pawan Bansal in the case. Take a look at the next individual who, in the UPA Times, Ashwini Kumar, again, he was accused of influencing the ongoing investigations into the coal scam, but there was no FIR in which he was named. A. Raja is different, because he was directly named in the FIR and in the CAG report, and therefore it was seen as a transparent case of corruption. Take a look at the next UPA minister, Dayanidhi Maran, again, allegedly arm-twisted promoter of SL, but as we have now seen, there are charge sheets and formal FIRs which have been filed against him. So in two clear cases, there is corruption. And the third was Veerbhadra Singh, accused of allegedly misusing his official position as chief minister in 1989. But it's the first few that I want to focus on, Javed, because what we've seen at the moment in the last 24 hours is the RSS, interestingly, coming out strongly in defense of Sushma Swaraj. Amit Shah trying to bring in Ottavio Quattrocchi to push the Congress on the defensive. Are the ranks being closed around Sushma Swaraj? Because I haven't heard a word from the Prime Minister of this country or the Finance Minister of the country.
Yes, and that's the big question. The Prime Minister's silence is deafening. This is a Prime Minister who doesn't lose an opportunity to tweet or to communicate with the people. This is the first big crisis that is facing his government, and he chooses to remain silent. Therein lies a story. Also, the very fact that all this flies in the face of what the BJP has been saying earlier, whether it was in the case of Shashi Tharoor, Ashwini Kumar, or in the case of Pawan Bansal. For now, I think Sushma Swaraj is safe, but the last has certainly not been heard on this story.
You know, the Prime Minister and Arun Jaitley are the two individuals that I want to focus on, Sanjay Kaul. We are finding today the BJP suddenly doing the disappearing act. Several of their leaders have not come. There was to be a press conference at 1 o'clock. That didn't take place. The Prime Minister has not spoken on this issue. Sambit Patra, the junior spokesperson, has to go and meet Sushma Swaraj. Is it now the case that only the RSS has chosen to defend Sushma ji, while your top government leadership, the Finance Minister and the Prime Minister specifically, have distanced themselves from her? Rajnath Singh has come out in a defense. So are we seeing internal BJP politics also playing out here, Sanjay Kaul?
No, I don't think so. I think you have started to now pick and choose who you would want to say something on this matter. And I'm sure that Mr. Modi does not react to every whimsical charge in his tweets.
No,
and
no,
that's
this is more than hold on.
However,
Mr. Modi is the Prime Minister, his External Affairs Minister, member of the Cabinet Committee on Security, faces a serious charge of impropriety, and you think the Prime Minister must stay silent?
No, I don't think it's a serious charge, because I think first and foremost your story is confused in the sense that what you're calling collateral damage for Mrs. Swaraj is really a collateral story that came out of the journalist who basically just interviewed. And it was really a breath of fresh air to have her circumspect views when you asked the repeated question, trying to position everything. Let me also tell you this idea of Mr. Modi being a fugitive is actually based on the persecution of the UPA regime. You also notice that the Congress spokesperson could not answer your question of what the quid pro quo was. Now, here's what I'm trying to say.
He gave me a relatively clear answer. Let me be fair to the Congress spokesperson. He said that a year ago, in 2013,
what is the quid pro quo?
The quid pro quo is twofold. Sushma Swaraj's daughter is the defense counsel for Lalit Modi, and obviously this is a high-profile case. Number two, Sushma Swaraj's husband's email is here with me, which clearly says in 2013, Lalit Modi's email, where he says that Swaraj Kaushal has written to him seeking help for admission for his nephew, and this letter is then forwarded to Keith Vaz. It's all there. So there are quid pro quos. There is a proximate relationship being established. So you can't deny that one point.
No, you can't push me on this for the simple reason that, you know, London and UK doesn't operate exactly like the Ghaziabad and Azamgarh colleges do for the Aam Aadmi Party law minister, okay? Nobody gets in there because somebody puts in a word. So here's what I'm trying to tell you. Let the Congress spokesperson answer the real question. Why are they so scared of Mr. Lalit Modi? What does he know that makes them shiver in their shoes? What is it that they have? Why are they going after him? What is their problem? Now that is between them and them. Mr. Keith Vaz and Mr. Lalit Modi. What Mr. Modi does has nothing to do with us.
No, then bring him back. Bring him back to this country.
Let the finance ministry withdraw the ED notice.
Let me bring in the Congress spokesperson. You want to respond, Mr. Keswan?
The terms.
Rajdeep, I just want to say two things.
Yes.
If I'm not interrupted.
Yes.
First thing is this.
Yes.
For the nonchalance and the vehemence with which the BJP is speaking now,
yes,
for the first 6 hours after the story broke, it was not the BJP but the RSS which reacted. Only after the RSS gave the cue, all of them came in. And still, please see the Home Minister's statement, please see Mr. Amit Shah's statement. We still do not know, Rajdeep, whether this was a personal act, one-to-one act of Sushma Swaraj speaking to Lalit Modi or the External Affairs Minister. We don't know if the Prime Minister was in the loop. We don't know whether the Home Ministry's concurrence was sought. We don't know if the Finance Ministry, clearances had been taken. I want to ask you today, after a direct contact with a person like Lalit Modi, what is the status of the blue collar notice? The country, all of us want to know what is the status of all these cases, whether it is illegal match fixing or money laundering or illegal betting. These are very serious issues, and today we need an explanation whether the Prime Minister is on board or this is an individual transgression. As Mr. K.C. Singh said, he said this is not within a purview. This is done by her as an individual or as the Foreign Minister of this country.
Where the question Sanjay called, and this is raised particularly because it's Sushma Swaraj, as you know, relations between Sushma Swaraj and the Prime Minister have been the subject of much speculation. Sushma Swaraj was seen to be close to L.K. Advani. We have heard this on repeated occasions that Sushma Swaraj is being marginalized. Now, Sushma Swaraj therefore becomes critical for us to understand whether the Prime Minister was in the loop when these decisions were taken. Was she operating on her own? And has the Prime Minister sought an explanation at any stage from Sushma Swaraj for this? Why is the Prime Minister silent? And why is the RSS speaking out?
Okay, so now, well, I like it that everybody is concerned about the internal health of the BJP. But let me also tell you this, Rajdeep, you're a senior journalist, you're in the know of everything. We have moved on, Rajdeep, we have moved on. This government is completely focused. And Sushma Swaraj is one of the finest ministers we have, and you know it and the world knows it. She has terrific ratings, she has a terrific relationship, and she is doing the best job possible now. Here's what I'm trying to tell you.
So you do not think that Sushma Swaraj should go the Madhav Singh Solanki way? Let's be clear. When Shashi Tharoor happened in the IPL Kochi case, without any FIR, you asked immediately DGP for his resignation and the UPA, and you got the resignation. In the case of Ashwini Kumar, he was accused of obstructing justice. There was no FIR and he had to resign on grounds of impropriety. I want to know whether you believe that Sushma Swaraj has committed an impropriety that demands resignation on the same parameters that you use for UPA ministers. Yes or no?
Nothing of the sort. No, absolutely not. And if the UPA minister resigns,
how is her case different from Shashi Tharoor? How is her case different from Shashi Tharoor or from a Madhav Singh Solanki in the 1990s?
Like, the facts of the case in this do not match anywhere. The seriousness of what is going on with the IPL, with Shashi Tharoor and the Kochi team is well known to everybody. The fact of the matter is that Mr. Lalit Modi is also paying the price of the same thing. So I don't want to get into the messes of that. The Congress
withdraw the case then.
Withdraw the case. Will you ask your finance minister to withdraw the case against him?
Rajdeep, may I come in? In which case?
Yes. Just a minute, let me get in Casey. Yes. Let me bring in Casey for an informed opinion on this.
External Affairs Ministry should have written to finance and said, it is our view that this is not a good enough case. You are just keeping us hanging and we can't deny a passport interminably. So please tell us whether you are serious about this case or not.
That's correct.
Finance Ministry could have said it's a non-serious case. We withdraw the notice, issue the regular passport.
In fact, my worry, my concern, and again I'm looking purely at facts, is if Sushma Swaraj is operating on a Lone Ranger and directly contacting Keith Vaz and contacting the British High
Commissioner. She knew the other road is blocked. Finance Ministry was not withdrawing the case.
That means the Finance Ministry, where the Enforcement Directorate lookout notice is there, is not taken into confidence.
No, and they were not
the Prime Minister is perhaps not taken into confidence. What does that suggest? Yes, go ahead.
Absolutely. Rajdeep, it does look to me that the Finance Ministry wanted Modi, that's Lalit Modi,
to be extradited,
to come back to India somehow, and the Foreign Ministry was effectively telling the UK government, no, you let him be there, you let him travel on your back. So effectively the government of India was seen as talking in two voices, and who is the one who can harmonize it? The silent Prime Minister.
You know, in that sense, and this is where Sanjay called, let's be clear, your party has been embarrassed. Because of the so-called high moral standards that you set, for the very reason you said it when it comes to the Aam Aadmi Party, which itself has found itself trapped, because it too tends to be self-righteous about every issue. So there in the fake degree scandal, you've called for Mr. Tomar's resignation. Who knows tomorrow if one of your ministers is caught in a fake degree scandal and there are allegations against your HRD minister to that effect, you will also have to ask for her resignation. The question is, I distinctly recall in the early 1990s, the BJP pressed for the resignation of Madhav Singh Solanki in very similar circumstances. You pressed for the resignation of Shashi Tharoor without there being an FIR in that case, simply on the grounds of impropriety. So Sushma may well have to follow that.
No, I don't think so. I think if you do that, if you start comparing and if you start putting apples and oranges together, there'll be no discussion. I am saying that if there was any fitment in this case, it would have actually taken a different turn. We are flogging a dead horse. Nothing is going to gain from this, and we are absolutely sure of what we are saying as far as Ms. Sushma Swaraj is concerned. There is absolutely no impropriety. Nothing has been proved. No motive is there. No quid pro quo has been established. I only want to emphasize the one point that there is no out-of-turn favor, absolutely not. She has been consistent. This would hold for anybody. It's a fugitive according to the last regime. And I must tell you something.
He's not a fugitive for you. Then withdraw the lookout notice and ask Lalit Modi to return to India. How can you say he's a fugitive only for the last government? Come on, let's be serious.
Let the finance minister come out and say
let's be serious. That is exactly what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Let's be serious.
Mr. Paul, the government of India is one. The party is changed.
For 1 year, you haven't withdrawn the notice.
Mr. Kaul, the government of India is a continuing entity.
Is not permanent.
Okay,
irrespective of the party in power, the government of India is one entity.
Can I get back to the core issue? The core issue will always come. It appears that the BJP stand is...
But the government of India holds different views.
Yeah, it appears that the BJP... Just a minute. It appears that the BJP stand is... Where is the quid pro quo? Please show us the quid pro quo. I think... From the Congress perspective, Mr. Keswan, that is going to be the BJP stand. They are saying Sushma Swaraj will not resign merely because she has been seen to have given a special favor to Lalit Modi on so-called humanitarian grounds. And we can question those humanitarian grounds because, as I said, consent is not required in the context of Portugal to have the husband accompany the wife for treatment. However, on the limited issue of quid pro quo, What to your mind is the quid pro quo in your view that raises a question over Sushma's defense from a Congress perspective?
Rajdeep, first thing is, please, there we have not got an answer. Why Sushma Swaraj as a leader of opposition in 2013 was in touch with Mr. Lalit Modi, who was wanted by the Indian government, and why as an external affairs minister she is having personal contact. That will explain the quid pro quo, because for any other humanitarian case, you have senior, people who have served in the government, you just instruct an official. It is very clear that if she had called key to us and also spoken to Lalit Modi, it is not done for everybody. Please let us not, beguile ourselves here. Please let us be clear. And one more thing, I would have been happy if the external affairs minister, when she spoke to Lalit Modi, would have asked him to come to India. She could have said, we'll give you travel documents, please come to India and answer these cases. What the BJP spokesperson is saying, why doesn't the BJP government and the ED of this government drop all the cases? Whether it's illegal match fixing or money laundering or betting, let them drop all the cases, give them a clean sheet and withdraw the blue collar notice. That is the hypocrisy and the double standard of this BJP government, because neither do we know the stand of this government or the finance ministry, nor do we know whether the Prime Minister was in the loop.
I think I take your point. There are several issues. We are going to carry this a little bit more forward, because for a few more minutes, let's take another break, because I just want to get this sorted out. There's a lot of confusion in the air at the moment. Let's try and get a perspective to it. Exactly what is the nature of the quid pro quo that Sushma Swaraj will have to answer for in the days ahead? What is the RSS's position? Why is the RSS taking such a strong line at the moment in defense of Sushma Swaraj?